That means we are doing our live stream. We're doing the inflection point moment for this week.
Does. Happy, dreary, rainy, cold Monday from
Yeah.
Columbus, Ohio, everyone.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is not a Chamber of Commerce day, but nonetheless, we got an interesting topic today.
We do.
Kind of piggybacking on a quote that we hear every so often. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So we decided this week we were going to talk about, do you want to go fast or do you want to go far? What is your choice? And I'm sure, I don't know about you, Jeff, but I want to go both. Because of course I want all of it.
Fast and far, yes.
That being said, the reality is going fast means you're going to go by yourself. But there are costs to that.
Yeah.
And sometimes going fast by yourself, well, from personal experience, I can tell you that going fast by yourself, sometimes you go in the wrong direction. I just had a picture in my head of little kids playing basketball and going to the wrong basket and shooting. I'm sure that happens in soccer and in lacrosse and in everything else under the sun too. But I literally saw it happen this season from somebody very near and dear to me. So that's not a pleasant experience.
No.
Or throwing, I personally have thrown my bowling ball in the wrong direction. Not fun, not what you want to do. I'm not saying that everyone who starts a business and wants to go fast is going to go in the wrong direction. But there's more chance of that when you don't have other people who are speaking into you.
That is very, very true. And I'm kind of like you. I want to go fast and far all at once.
We're overachievers.
We are. But I do think that that's, it's an important thing. Sometimes, I've been told you got to slow down in order to go fast.
And that's true.
Which is very, very true when you think about how far and what your trajectory looks like on where you want to go, and whether you attempt to walk and sometimes pave that road and cut down the trees to pave the road on your own, or if you're going to do that with a group of people that can support you in different ways, on cutting down the trees and putting gravel and pavement and all of that stuff.
All those, and then the striping, and then putting up stop signs and, yield signs and the appropriate signs of the road that you're doing. And speaking of going fast and going far, let's see if there's anybody here with us. We had several people who were interested in hearing this chat. So if you are here with us, feel free to jump in. Let us know you're here. Always interested in your feedback. We have several people who jump on with us and some really good conversations back and forth with them in the chat and us talking on the live stream. So we love to have people let us know they're here and interact with us. Because, Jeff and I can have a conversation, but sometimes it's good to have someone other than the two of us in the conversation.
Tends to be even more fun when we have others chiming in, but we can easily fill 30 minutes between the two of us.
We've been known to do that. So we're talking about going far because you have others with you. That can look, there's several different ways that can look.
Yeah.
You can have a partner in your business. You can have a strategic alliance like we have. You can have people on your team that are responsible for a specific part of the organization and most likely, especially in the beginning, they're responsible for parts of the organization where you're not an expert. That's why you're bringing them on. And you need them to speak into you. That's why you can go further together than you can going by yourself alone. And when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about who those advisors are. Now, obviously, we're thinking about building a community of people together because that's what we do with the Inflection Point Hub.
Yep.
What that gets you is trusted advisors that you can, among other things, is trusted advisors that you can bounce things off of. People at the same stage of business, but they may have experienced some different things than you have. It's not may have. They definitely have, because this is just how it works. We've all experienced different things in our business. And not just even in our business, but in our working life up to the place where we are today. Because you bring all those experiences with you. When you become a business owner, all the experiences that you had before you became the business owner,
Yep.
they're not just erased from your brain. That's not how it works. And every experience we have has some applicability. It may not be done in the same way. I mean, we've both talked about that. We've been in Fortune 500 companies, and the resources that they have at their command are very different than what a startup or small business has.
Yep.
But you still have learned some things from that. I mean, the things you know from the standpoint of processes and systems started back when you were in a corporate space. You just apply them in a different way.
Yep.
And with different resources. You don't bring in enterprise level resources to work with your clients.
That is very, very true. It's just, it's a matter of scale, of how you scale up and down some of these tools, and thinking about, doing these things in terms of advancing your business, and being able to move the ball forward.
Mm-hmm. That's very true. And knowing how to apply those things, what are those core principles that will move that ball forward? You just pull it out of all the bells and whistles that came with it, right? Yeah.
You are absolutely right.
And sometimes, speaking of fast and far at the same time, sometimes removing the core principles from the bureaucracy of a large organization can help you, even with those others that are partnering with you, go faster, because the bureaucracy's gone.
Yeah.
And you can move faster because you don't have to have 6 levels of approvals before you do X, Y, or Z.
6 levels with the meeting before the meeting, after the meeting, followed by the meeting after the meeting after the meeting. Yeah, I got you. I know what you're talking about.
Speaking of after, I'm having after the bronchitis attack. I'm not sick anymore, but man, I sound like, as my doctor said, "Oh, you sound like Lauren Bacall." Yeah, that's not what I want to sound like. Thank you. Anyway, yeah, I know that for both of us, we've been in that situation where we've had to deal with the layers of approval. We've had to deal with not being able to move forward quickly, and then feeling like we're not getting as far as what we could potentially because of all that around us. Yet we have learned that having others around us to speak into us and to learn from is really valuable. There are so many different places where being able to put out there where the struggle is, where the question mark is. I mean, we can all Google things. I'm very grateful for the fact we can Google things. But when there's 2.7 million responses that come up in like the first 2 seconds, So then what do you trust?
Yep.
That's where that community is so valuable to go far, because you're not having to winnow everything. You do have those others that have your best interests at heart.
Yep.
Who's the contractor I should use? Well, there's 27 different people in my county that I could call about this. Who did you use for this? And is that the same situation or close enough that I'm looking at? So this would be a really good fit for me.
Yeah. And that is you can get a lot from those kind of discussions and just the openness. I was with a group last week, another business owner that works in, I'll call it the same core customer base as I do in my, but the services are complementary to one another. They're not competing. And we had some really great discussions together just around some of our pricing model and for certain projects, like how do we figure out what this looks like? And I got some fantastic nuggets from that discussion of things that I never would have thought of, that I'm like, I really should put this into my process. And then I was able to share a little bit about kind of what I did with my process, to a little bit, call it more efficient on how we go and bring certain things to market, and was able to share that. And it is super beneficial because you pick up these things that you would never think of, because the diversity of thought, where this business is at compared to where mine's at, we're in somewhat similar stages, yet a little bit different, because they've been operating in their business longer than I've been operating in mine. So, just some really unique sharing opportunities coming out of that on things that I believe are going to allow me to go further than I could have on my own.
Sure.
Because these are ways and things that I wasn't thinking about. And to be honest, probably would not have ever thought about had I not had that conversation.
That is a great example, Jeff, of exactly what we're talking about here, because the idea generation, the concepts that were completely outside your range of thinking, which doesn't make your thinking bad. It just means it's not how you approach the thinking process. It's not how you approach the system that you're building, which is your business. But somebody else sees it a little bit differently. And so because they shared that one thing with you, you now have a new insight that is opening up a whole new possibility for you that wasn't possible until you had that conversation. So to put yourself in a community of people where you have the opportunity to generate those kinds of ideas, and then not only generate ideas, but be in a space where you're accountable to implementing, where when you decide, I think this is going to be a really good addition for my business. And then you say that to the people who are in your community, and you come back the next month and they say, hey, Jeff, you were really talking about that this was going to be a really good thing. Have you had a chance to do anything? Or maybe instead of have you had a chance to do anything with that, even though sometimes that's the reality, what they ask you is, so Jeff, how far have you gotten in implementing what you were talking about? And you say, I haven't had 2 seconds to think about that. Or, I haven't had a chance to really do anything with that yet, but I've been just like kind of noodling some stuff and, writing a couple thoughts here and there about it. I got this notebook page that every time I've got an idea about it, I don't know, I'm making it all up. But if you can have other people who help you remember, who help you come back to that thought process, it doesn't get lost in the craziness of trying to keep all the plates spinning.
Yep. And I think that is the significant benefit, is that accountability aspect of having someone that's outside of your, I'll call it your typical circle, meaning it's not an employee, it's not a spouse or significant other, it's someone that's really independent, but you're building these relationships with to
Yeah.
go farther as a group and hold each other accountable. That's really where I think the power of groups like this come in. Sure, we all have people that we can talk to, right? But
Yeah.
some of those discussions, sometimes you need that different perspective. And, let's face it, oftentimes the people that we hang around with might be similar to us, right? So,
Really?
How much accountability do you really get? Which you might, I'm not saying that it isn't there, but, people tend to hang around people that are somewhat similar,
Mhm.
in a similar phase or stage. So even other business owners that you might know might be people that you've known for a very long time. And maybe there is an accountability factor there, but maybe there's some things that you don't share with them because you know them so well, or maybe you're competing for market share, or, maybe there's that little bit of the imposter syndrome, that this person's wildly
A
successful,
little bit.
right?
Yeah.
It's a little
Mhm.
on your shoulder saying, well, don't really share this because it makes it look like I don't know what I'm doing. And maybe I shouldn't have a seat at this table with this group of, friends or business owners that I'm around. And that's really the additional, I think, benefit for some of this.
That is so well said, because having a well facilitated group where there's somebody who is making sure that the playing field is level, not that everybody is exactly the same, because quite frankly, you don't want a whole bunch of people that are the same. It's boring and it's not going to get you where you need to go, but mostly it's boring.
It is very boring.
I'm sorry, say that again.
I said it is very boring.
Yeah, right. And neither one of us is about the boring.
No.
No, boring is not a good thing for us. But having that group of people where there's the variety, but something that holds you together, and there's somebody who is helping the group stay on the same page, so to speak, is really worth the price of admission.
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been hearing recently from a lot of people is that they've joined, they've become part of groups in community organizations, nonprofits, what have you, where they're joining together with others in a not paid, not facilitated group. So the people of the group facilitate it themselves. This can work, but it's really hard work to make that work, where they've been frustrated and struggling and finding that these groups don't hold together because there's not somebody whose job it is to make sure that we're all aligned, that we're all staying focused on the same things at the same time. Not that we can't bring our challenge to the table. That's what a hot seat's for. But that the group needs to have that ability to bring the expertise of the whole group to bear for each individual within the group.
Yeah.
In the place where they have a gap. And they have to have the safety, like you said, the imposter syndrome of I can't admit that I'm, the little person. I can't admit this. But they have to have the safety within the group to be able to say, I'm really struggling with this. I don't know how to get this part done.
Yeah.
I've tried this and I've tried this and I've tried this and I can't seem to get over this hump. And then you have somebody who says, man, I know what that was like. I was there 6 months ago. If you have somebody who says that to you, the imposter syndrome goes away.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I was thinking kind of struck me with this conversation is I think that, we said fast or far, what's your choice? I think that there's a component of this that you could do both.
Mm-hmm.
And by that, I mean, if you're in a group that's going to help you go far, then in reality, what that happens with the accountability and things should enable you to move fast in whatever fast looks like for you, if that makes sense.
Ooh, I like that. Say more
So,
about that.
so this is what I was just thinking of, like hearing you talk about kind of the accountability and the facilitated. We all have kind of a personal choice. My version of fast might be very different than your version, very different than someone else's, right?
I can
Like,
assure you that's true.
I mean, I can only imagine like you driving in a car with me. What I consider fast is probably excessive to what some people consider fast.
You don't know
Per-
my sister Wendy.
okay. Yeah. Me or your sister. There. But I think, what this really is if you want to go far, having kind of that group and some facilitated group to get people on the same page, have the accountability, and then the fast, meaning what does that mean for me? So for me, fast might mean between now and our next group discussion, I'm going to have committed with certain milestones, things that I'm going to have done. It might
Mm-hmm.
not be 100% in, but this is milestone A, B, and C that I'm going to be hitting before we get back together. For someone else, that might look like, hey, I'm going to spend some time between now and then and thinking through the other alternatives and how I might approach this. And my plan is I'm going to have a plan by the next time we get together, not implemented or almost implemented. And I think some of that also depends on, I'll call it a little bit of the person's like risk tolerance, right? How certain do I have to feel in order to take action on something that I really understand what I'm getting into with going this direction in my business? What's the impact to customers? What's the impact to my cash flow? What's the impact to my employees? What's my personal impacts to do this? How much
Uh-huh.
am I taking on?
Right.
So think this fast. I think you can do both, but I think to get far, you need the group first, and then that can enable you to go faster. It might cause you to slow down a little bit because people are giving you different things to think about, but then you have a choice on how quickly you want to move through that and to take those suggestions and that advice. There might be things that, the advice that you might give me from a similar situation, you might be a little more risk adverse than I am. And I take that with a grain of salt. And I'm okay. I'm going to put
Yeah.
this thing in to kind of mitigate this from, something really bad happening.
Right.
But I'm going to go and do it, where someone else might say, it's a really good point Rhonda has. I need to do some more market research and other things before I feel comfortable putting money into this. New venture, this new product launch, before I get too far into this and can't recover. So I think there is a
Yeah.
component of doing both and recognizing that that's not a one size fits all for everyone.
That's so important. And it's so important. That brings up one of the other things that we do in the Inflection Point Hub. In our starting point, there are some people who would think, hey, man, let's hit the ground running. What are the processes? What are the systems? Let's get going. Let's build that plan. Let's get it out the door. But what we do in the starting point is start with you as the leader? Who are you? What are you? How do you function? And that whole, how much risk tolerance do I have? What do I need in order to move forward? What are the things that I need to be doing versus what I need to be handing off to others? Because in every organization with every leader, that looks different. And if you try to make your company a carbon copy of somebody else's, you are going to make yourself miserable, because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
You need to build the company that works for you and bring the people around you that support the way your organization works. That does not mean that you should be a tyrant. That's not what I'm saying. But you need to understand, first and foremost, what do you bring to the table and how do you build a company around those skills?
Yeah. Absolutely.
I'm not
And
really sure how we got from process and systems to who you are as the leader, but it is what it is.
it is. And that's a really important part of that journey is
Mm-hmm.
having a solid understanding of who you are as a leader and how that shows up in your business, because that's going to inform the way that process and systems and other things fall into place. If you don't have a good understanding of who you are and how you show up and what type of an environment that you want to make for your team, your employees, your customers, a lot of the other stuff, it certainly can be done, but the challenge with that is it really done with the flavor of you and what you're trying to build? Or is it just a robotic rinse and repeat type of organization, that you're building? And either one's fine, but, you need to go into it eyes wide open on what are you trying to achieve and
That's
what
really true.
look like.
And I would argue that if you're trying to do a rinse and repeat robotic organization, that is not sustainable over time for you as the business owner. If you're trying to just build something, crank it out, and sell the business, then great. But if you're building something that you want to be your legacy business, then you better make it one that reflects who you are, because otherwise it's not sustainable over time.
Yeah.
Once that,
Is,
yeah, sorry.
I was going to say, you hit that on the nail on the head, and I've even heard business owners that got into something because they were passionate about it. And then maybe they lost a little bit of sight over what they were passionate about and started chasing dollars and cents or trying to get a certain evaluation. And even the common thing that I've heard from owners that have done that is it's just not fun anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to talk about the way that value creation in a business can suffer when you're not having fun anymore and you're just trying to hit certain numbers. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't have sales goals and numbers and things as business owners,
Right.
goals trying to reach, but when that becomes the only focus, because you want to get whatever that exit looks like for you, whether it's a multiple of your earnings, you want someone to buy it, and that's all that you're focused on, it's really, really easy to lose sight on why you started in the first place. And yeah, every business exists to make money. I'm not saying that every business should just be a charity necessarily.
No, let's not do that.
Right. When it's not fun anymore, it's really hard to sustain that, to get any kind of valuation or exit plan if you're just not having fun with what you're doing.
Right. And even if you're not trying to exit, trying to keep the business going over time under those circumstances is incredibly difficult. And again, unsustainable over time.
Yep.
Willpower will only take you so far. Eventually, you have to have a purpose and a reason, or a why, as Simon Sinek likes to call it,
Yep.
to keep you moving forward. That's the sustainability factor. So,
yeah, absolutely. So yeah, fast or far, I say both.
Of course you do. I personally say we start with far and we get the fast in there, as opposed to starting with fast and thinking we're going to go far on our own. Because realistically, you're going to have other people around you.
Yep,
So there you go. But I
absolutely.
can agree with the both part. I'll go with the both and part.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Jeff, we will be back next Monday, and we're going to be talking about the different stages of building a business.
Yeah.
That is the talk of the day.
That
All
will
right.
be another fun one. And I'm looking forward to seeing you again next Monday.
Absolutely. See you then, Jeff. Have a
See ya.
good one. Bye-bye.